we've been talking about the hepatitis viruses, and now we'll be talking about the series of herpes virus or herpes family virus. Epstein virus is a kind of herpes family virus, and when people say herpes virus, people only think about one kind of infection, but actually the whole family of herpes virus, they have multiple types of virus and multiple type of infections. Like Epstein-Barr virus is one of them. What are the general properties of this? Epstein-Barr virus is a family called human gamma herpes virus 4, is one of the 9 known human herpes virus types in the herpes family, and it is one of the most common viruses in humans, okay, because it infects most of the commonly to the humans. It is best known as the cause of infectious mononucleosis, the disease that it causes. So again, the name of the disease it causes, infectious mononucleosis by the Epstein-Barr virus, EBV, short form EBV. What is the structure of Epstein-Barr virus? You can clearly see the structure is spherical in nature. Although the nucleocapsid, that is the genetic material, as well as the capsomeres, it is of icosahedral structure, but the overall virus itself is spherical in nature. So it has its genetic material, which is DNA, then it has its capsid. So first start with the genetic material, then it has capsid, then it has tegument protein or tegument layer. This is the tegument layer, okay, and then it has envelope. So it has 4 different components in structure, okay. So a DNA virus with toroid shaped protein core that is wrapped with DNA. And second thing is that a nucleocapsid with 162 capsomeres, means individual unit of proteins that makes the capsid, protein tegument between the nucleocapsid and the envelope, and finally the envelope with external virus encoded glycoprotein spikes are present on the surface, with which it can contact with the host cell and can interact with the host cell and engulfed inside the host cell. The genetic material for Epstein-Barr virus or EBV is double-stranded DNA. So it's a double-stranded DNA virus. The incubation period for Epstein-Barr virus mononucleosis is 4 to 6 weeks. Okay, generally very commonly it's 4 weeks. 4 to 6 weeks. Route of transmission. The Epstein-Barr virus spreads commonly through the bodily fluids, especially through saliva. So however, EBV can also spread through blood, semen during sexual contact. So it's a part of the sexually transmitted diseases. Any kind of herpes virus is a part of that route of transmission. Blood transfusions can also cause this, as well as organ transplantations can also transfer the virus from one person to the other person. What are the symptoms of this? Virtually all patients with EBV infectious mononucleosis report fatigue and prolonged malaise kind of symptoms. Okay, a sore throat is a second only to fatigue and malaise as a presenting symptom. So generally sore throat, because generally the infection brings the start point to the tonsils, and near the tonsils salivary glands are there. They were so swollen, the adenoids are swollen after the infection. So that's what the region, these are the region where the infection is more predominant. If we look at the life cycle, we'll understand this more clearly. This is how we are going to see that. As I told you, that the primary region of the infection by the Epstein-Barr virus is in the tonsil, and that's the reason that saliva has a high value, high number of the virus particle of Epstein-Barr virus. That's why saliva act as a really important component of transferring the viral particle from one person to the other person, from an infected person to the non-infected person. So this is the primary infection to the tonsils. Okay, so tonsils are infected. Tonsils are the place where our immune system cells or immune cells are present normally to fight against the infection, and this Epstein-Barr virus choose the tonsil as their place where they modify and fight against these cells, because Epstein-Barr virus itself attacks our B cells, okay, and it can blast open our B cells. B cells or B lymphocyte cells are fighter cells of our body that generates antibody to fight against specific antigens that infects us. Okay, it can be bacterial antigen or viral antigen, but this Epstein-Barr virus itself infects and try to attack this B cells itself of our body, and these B cells are normally present in these tonsils, and also there is always a fighting between this B cell and Epstein-Barr virus in the tonsil. So there is swollen tonsil, and there's a lot of pain in the near the tonsil, surrounding the tonsil. So the viral entry and replication promotes growth and transformation of the B lymphocyte at this moment, and then it blast opens the B cell. Okay, priming of the native naive T cell produced EBV specific response, and it can cause latency, the latent infection in the resting B cells. So the component of the Epstein-Barr virus remains inside the B cell and it remains for a while, and then sometimes later reactivation again begins and the viral particles again start to package itself and can come out again in the tonsils, and through tonsils they will again move out from one host to the other host via sneezing, coughing and all this process. This is another picture which explains this process perfectly. This is Epstein-Barr virus. You can see it can take its entry inside. This is the tonsil region. They are a naive B cell. The B cell, naive B cell means they are not destined for their function at this moment. So what they do here is this naive B cells, they get this Epstein-Barr virus inside, and then they move inside this cell, and latency. So there is a latency period of time that may occur at this moment. You can see this is the germinal center. This is the germinal center, and in this germinal center there are dendritic cells which are also a part of we can say the antigen presenting cell of our body, and there are B cells which are also antigen presenting cells of our body. They are generally trained and modified at this point, but here this Epstein-Barr virus can remain inside the naive B cells for a while, okay, because here the B cells are trained. These B cells are converted to memory B cells, so that in future times the same virus particle inserts itself and the memory B cell will start producing the antibody to fight against it. So they generally don't take this path, so they remain as it is, and then at this moment from this point on they may remain in the latency period for a while, or they may repackage itself and go out. So what they generally do, obviously, as I told you earlier, that they will replicate, they make their own genetic material, and using the host machinery they will make more of this proteins which is encoded by their genome, and the structural proteins once made, they will package it and they will go outside. So here particularly how exactly they package and go out is not explained, because the more important thing about this Epstein-Barr virus infection is to understand how exactly it infects how exactly it evades our immune system, because it actually goes to the tonsil, which is a secondary immune organ of our body. It's not a primary organ but a secondary immune response organ, where a lot of effects and fight between antigen and as well as bacteria, virus, as well as with the B or T cell goes on. So at this moment they escape that by latency, they hide inside the naive B cells and they present there, and if naive B cell sooner maturate and make memory B cells to start making the antibody, at that moment they shift to the lytic cycle and they rupture this cell and go out of it outside and spread from the one host person to the other host person. So this is how they spread. So this is the life cycle of Epstein-Barr virus. If you like this video, please hit the like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to our channel to get more videos like that in future.